go get together. Eat me all up in my river. We've been going. Nobody does my body, Albie does my body. Got this thing on lock. The way he does it, I ain't tryna hit nobody, no. The way that he squeezes and touches it, if he keeps this up, I might need just like. There's a reason I walk like this. My baby, he be loving on this. When he do it, he be working it. And every night he got me wanting more of it. There's a reason I walk like this. Side to side with a sway in my hip. When he do it, he be working it. And every night he got me wanting more of it. All night I've been in this bed, he been in my head, I've been in his head. Move my body right and left to the thing that can't keep me coming back. All night I've been in this bed, he been in my head, I've been in his head. Move my body right and left to the thing that can't keep me coming back. There's a reason I walk like this. My baby, he be loving on this. When he do it, he be working it. Yeah, every night he got me wanting more of it. There's a reason I walk like this. Side to side with a sway in my hip. When he do it, he be working it. And every night he got me wanting more. All night I've been in this bed, he been in my head, I've been in his head. Right there and left to that do it, keep me coming back. There's a reason I walk like this. Side to side with a sway in my hip. When he do it, he be working it. And every night he got me wanting more of it. This is
WRSV, Elm City.
Turn up.
Choice FM. The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM.
Well, good, happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone's good. This is James Gailliard, and welcome to the James Gailliard Show. We're live every Monday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. right here on Choice FM. I'm here to talk about things that we don't talk enough about, and I'm here to engage you in things that are going to move our lives forward in a positive direction. And so every show, we always talk politics because one of my goals is to make sure that we see the weaving of public policy into every area of our lives. I want you to think about everything you do. As a matter of fact, think about what you did today so far. Think about what you did today so far from the time you've gotten up until right now. And you're going to be hard-pressed to identify a single activity that in some way is not impacted by public policy. Even the most private and most personal things that we may do is still influenced in some way or another by public policy, even if it is influenced by our ability to be able to do it. You know, I mean, you can do whatever you want in your house because the law of the land allows you to do that. But if some lunatic is one day elected to public office and decides to wants to strip certain rights from people, then that may happen. And so our voting matters, our engagement matters, our education matters. I think we have to learn to take the emotionalism out of our decision making. And as we take the emotionalism out of our decision making and really begin thinking through, hey, what are the things that make the most sense? And I'm going to talk a little bit about sensible things in just a moment. And so every day we're together, on every Monday rather, we're together from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. here on Choice FM. I want to ask you to do me a favor. I want you to follow me on social media. Anywhere where there's a social media platform, I'm out there somewhere. Generally, if you just type in my name, James Gailliard, Gailliard, or JD Gailliard, JD, and then Gailliard, generally I'm going to pop up. And so we're out there. My team is doing an amazing job making sure that content is out there. And we're going to start putting some of our content out on our podcast station as well. So if you type in my name on any podcast outlet, I'm going to come up. Or if you type in black and white, I'm certainly going to come up. And so, again, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're all here. There's a few things that I want to get us talking about today. And so we always start our segments with Since We Were Together Last. My first two segments every show, if you've been with us for a while, is first of all, Since We Were Together Last. I want to just talk about some things that have happened from last Monday to today. And then they said, what? And they said, what is basically, what did your pastor, what did your preacher talk about? Matter of fact, I'll start there today. They said, what? What did they say? What did your man or woman of God say? Let me just say this. If you don't have a church, you need one. everyone needs a church, I believe. Everyone needs a faith community to help direct them and grow them and equip them and to hold them accountable. Everyone needs a faith community that will challenge them, a faith community that will convict, that the word will convict us so that we can be better human beings and better people. And so if you don't have a church, I want to encourage you, get you a church, because all of us need one. So I am a pastor in Rocky Mount, North Carolina at Word Tabernacle. Shout out to all the Wordites who may be watching and or listening right now on their drive time. And if you want to call in, I take calls real quick. I don't like to spend a whole lot of airtime with callers because, not that I don't want to hear what you have to say, because I do, but because I just want to make sure we're moving the show along. The hour goes really fast. In the 252, you can reach me at 937-7400. And in the 919, you can reach me at 872-9210. And so I said, I preached a new sermon. I've started a new sermon series in the book of Galatians. And I'm really looking forward to how the Lord leads us and directs us. And so yesterday I preached about don't mess with the message and how it's important as churches that we keep the primary things, and understanding how God is in control of things, and understanding that we're all where we are because of grace, and we do what we do for God's glory. And so I'm excited about that new sermon series, and that's what I preached about. What did your pastor preach about? And hopefully he or she preached about something that you can recall and something that was significant for your life. So since we were together last, O.J. Simpson dies of prostate cancer. So just sending love and best wishes to his family. I think it's interesting. I remember, I don't know, I'm aging myself. Who out there is going to be with me on this? I remember when O.J. Simpson was one of the lead spokesmen for the car rental place Avis, and he had commercials of running through the airport. I remember him vividly in those commercials, and I think it's tragic that a person with such a stellar career, we would wind up knowing more because of him being acquitted from charges of killing his wife. And the whole Johnny Cochran line, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. And how the black community just rejoiced because, to be very honest, for the first time maybe ever in our lifetime, at that moment, it felt as if the criminal justice system had finally worked on behalf of people of color. And so I think there was a lot of people in the black community, especially, that even though there's always been debate amongst us, amongst our families, if OJ was really guilty or not, we just felt like the system had been so damaging against us for so long that finally we got a break. And then, of course, he winds up in jail anyway over a sports memorabilia issue. And now he has passed on from prostate cancer. Let it be a reminder, men, that cancer can hit any of us. And I want to encourage you, as you're listening to me today, that you will be mindful of the value of your health. It's something that I preach more than people want to hear. I'm going to keep saying it on this show because I want you to live by it. I'm hoping that as we spend time together, there's some things that you're going to hear that will make you feel like, you know what? James Gailliard on his show said X, and then hopefully you'll parrot it. Hopefully it'll make sense, right? And then if it makes sense, you'll parrot it. But one of the things that I say routinely to my family, to my staff, and to myself, and to our congregation, is that the number one responsibility on your job description, even though it may not be written down, is to be healthy. Because at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter how anointed, how gifted, how well educated, and how well intended we are, if we are too sick or we're dead to be able to fulfill the responsibility. And so as we reflect on the life of O.J. Simpson dying of prostate cancer since we were together last, I do want to encourage you to dig deep and to make sure you're doing everything to protect and to maintain your physical and your emotional health. And so I wanted to throw that out first of all. The second thing I want to talk a little bit about, I was reading an article and I didn't think it was real. And so I'm curious about what your perspective is going to be, and I'm going to find all of you out here on social media, and so I can see kind of what you're saying. I think I have found you, and so I didn't think it was real, and so I started looking at it, and I was like, wow, it's real. How wild is that? And so here's some comments coming in. I want to make sure I can keep up with all of your comments, and so. Yep, y'all are out here. Appreciate that. Cynthia, shouting you out. Vaughn Richardson, appreciate you. The call numbers are out there. Hey, Gwen Barnes and Tammy. Good to see all of you. Good to see all of you watching and or listening. And appreciate that vote of confidence, Cynthia, about my message. Don't mess with the message. And so I saw this and I was like, it cannot be. It cannot be so. It cannot be so. Former President Trump is endorsing a Bible. He is endorsing a Bible. He has this new business venture of this easy to read, large print, slim design Bible that invites people to explore God's word anywhere and anytime. And in addition to it including the King James Version translation of the Bible, it also includes copies of the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance, and the handwritten chorus of the Greenwood song. And it's God Bless the U.S. It's the God Bless the USA Bible. The God Bless the USA Bible. And it was inspired by country singer Lee Greenwood's patriotic song. Wow. Okay. Wow, is about what I can say about that. It does lead me to a conversation that maybe we'll get into, not maybe, we'll get into it over the course of now and November. But it just leads to the conversation of why the evangelical right is so supportive of Donald Trump. I'm not going to get into all that today, but I want to get into it in the future. So I was just surprised. What do you think about the God Bless the USA Bible? I will say this. Even if this was not Donald Trump, I would feel this way, and I want to say that I feel this way strongly. I don't like language around our faith that directs the movement of God upon the United States and nowhere else. Let me be very clear. I'm proud American. I'm grateful to God that I was born here. I'm grateful to God for every experience I've had in this country, and I do believe that. I don't think I would want to live anywhere else. I don't know for sure because I haven't been everywhere else. But I'm grateful to be here. But I want us to be really clear that God is bigger than the United States. And whenever we limit the movement and the blessing of God upon a single population of people, I think we are already stepping outside of the will of God. That's why I don't like it when, politicians give their speeches and then at the end of the speech they end with "and God bless America," because it's almost like they're saying "and God bless America" and nowhere else. And it's my prayer that God would move on every continent in the land, and that God would move in every country in the world. And I just thought it was very interesting that this person who has had no sense of morality nor sense of character, clearly from conduct and language and perspective, no real relationship with the Lord, and yet people are purchasing the God Bless the United States of America Bible. So while we're on Donald Trump, though, he made history today, y'all. Donald Trump made history today. And he is shown up in the Lower Manhattan court, and he is on trial for criminal charges. Now, mind you, these are felony charges, and my suspicion is he won't do any jail time. But again, it speaks to the lack of character. And so his folk tried really hard to get the trial derailed, but the jury selection still was underway, and there'll have to be 10 panels of a panel of 12 New Yorkers and an alternative. They're seated. Once they're seated, The trial will begin, but the trial is about a potential sex scandal cover-up that just prior to the 2016 presidential election, the prosecutors are alleging that Donald Trump falsified business records to hide the reimbursement of hush money payments that were made to influence the election outcome. And, of course, Trump has pleaded not guilty and is denied having an affair with porn star, adult film star. You know, we have fancy ways of calling people's occupations or renaming people's sins, and so they don't refer to Stormy Daniels as a porn star. They refer to her as an adult film actress or an adult film star. But it's interesting to me that a man who has had relations with an adult porn star and who is now on trial and has been convicted, not convicted, but who has been charged with charge upon charge. It's interesting that this man is actually now selling a Bible. Not that God can't transform everyone's life, but let him transform your life first, okay? Before we start, and we should never be pimping the word of God and pimping God the way that this is going on. So I don't know what y'all think about this, but I think that's kind of real wild. And so let's shift gears. Today is tax day. Today is tax day. Let me just say this, y'all. I need an accountant in my life. I'm not feeling the tax code of our country. I want to admit this is an area that I'm woefully undereducated, and I'm praying that God will not only give me enlightenment and understanding, but that I can become better equipped, that he can put the right people around me, whether they be attorneys or whether they be accountants, so that I can better understand the tax code. I don't know. How many of y'all remember? I'm aging myself. This is the Aging the G show today, okay? So I'm aging the G. This is Aging G today because, first of all, I mentioned about the Avis car commercial with O.J. Simpson. Well, now I'm going to go back to the Cosby show. Well, Theo, on this particular episode, and I don't remember all the ins and outs, but on this particular episode, and I think Theo's trying to, he tells his parents, look, I don't want to be a lawyer and a doctor like y'all. I just want to be ordinary people, you know? And so his dad was like, okay, fine. You want to be ordinary people? How much would you want to make? And they came up with a number. I don't know. $500 a month or whatever the number was. And Theo was like, his eyes got all big. He was like, man, I'm going to be making all that. And then his dad, and I think they may have some Monopoly money or whatever, some play money or whatever. And then he started taking his money, taking tax money out, taking grocery money out, taking this out and taking that out to the point where he was just broke. And one of the things that his dad said was because the government, the IRS, comes for ordinary folk first. Well, let me tell you, on this tax day, I acknowledge all of that, man. This tax code is crazy. And I think we have to become better educated in our communities. You know, it was Warren Buffett who talked about that, you know, he has a lower tax burden from a percentage perspective than his secretary, right? Because I really think that the tax code is designed, and if somebody, you know, one of the things I love about all of you is that you never know who's listening, you never know who's watching, and you never know who wants to chime in on what we're talking about. But the tax code is really, I think, designed in a way where it's not designed to benefit working people. And I looked at my tax burden, and I think we finally got it down 22%. I think we started at 28% or 30%, and we finally got it down to 22%. I was like, good Lord, Caesar wants more than the Lord. I mean, the Lord gives me the sun, the moon, the stars, salvation, peace, joy, health, friendships. The list goes on, and he does it every single day. He never leaves me. He stays present with me no matter where I go. And he says, look, give me 10%. You know, I got you covered. You know, go on out to the beach and walk on the sand. It's no extra. Go up onto the mountains and watch the mountains. No extra. Watch eagles take flight. No extra. You know, he says we can have a daily talk time. I'm not going to be like your counseling service. I'm not going to charge you about an hour. If you want to get up at 2 a.m. and talk to me, I'll be available. No problem. You know what? Tell you what I'm going to do. I know everything is mine. I just need some evidence that you love me too. Give me 10%. I can get down with that. Meanwhile, here comes Caesar. This is why I guess the Lord said, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. And this joker, he wants up to 30%. And it's criminal. We need to do something about this. This is not the will of the Lord. And so I need to find an accountant in my life. I find myself every year frustrated. So I hope y'all paid your taxes, and I hope you filed your taxes, because you have till midnight, okay? And so I pushed the button on mine. We pushed the button, I don't know, a little bit after that, 7 or 8 o'clock last night. And it's already been accepted federally. We're just now waiting for the state to accept it. It's been pending for a while. Come on, Mr. Penny, our secretary over there in revenue. What y'all waiting on? Go ahead and accept my stuff. So let's get with the program in North Carolina. And so I find myself every year, this is what my takeaway always is. And y'all gonna be surprised when I say this probably. My takeaway every year is I pay way too much in federal tax. Way too much. But this is what's gonna surprise you. I don't pay nearly enough state tax. Like, I think the way we have gutted personal taxes, corporate taxes, franchise taxes, the way we have gutted them in our state, it's gonna rain one day, family. I want you to hear me. I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember Monday, April 15th, the year of our Lord, 2024. You remember that I said this. The time is gonna come in North Carolina where it's gonna rain, when it's gonna rain. When I mean when it's gonna rain, where the economy is gonna go south, where things are not gonna be, we're gonna have high inflation, and there's gonna be layoffs, and there's gonna be a struggle, and we're gonna need revenue. But because over the last several years we have so severely gutted our ability to be able to raise money, we are going to struggle as a state. And so every year I get a refund almost every year from the state, and I'm just like, I don't want to, put it in our public school system. Matter of fact, let me ask you all this question. Real talk. This is real talk. I wish I knew how many taxpayers there are in North Carolina. So there are 10.5 million people in North Carolina. Let's just say, I'm jotting some numbers down. Let's say 3 million of those 10.5 million people, 3 million of those people, pay taxes in our state. I'm wondering, if we said to every taxpayer, it's going to cost you another $10 a month to make sure we have a really outstanding public education system, I wonder how many people would push back on that. I certainly would not. And so we could raise hundreds of millions of dollars for schools. I don't know. What's your experience about taxes? I'm just kind of blown away by the tax code in our nation. I think it skews way too heavily toward business owners. I don't even think it skews as heavily towards wealthy people. I think it just skews heavily towards people that have businesses, people with LLCs, people that can take huge deductions. And I think everybody should be paying their part. You know what I think? I think if it were up to me, I like the church system of taxation. I think, God comes along, he's like, look, 10%, you keep the other 90%. I'm going to bless you to make 100%. You take 10%, give it to the church as an expression of your love and appreciation for me and all that I've been and all that I continue to do in your life. And you live on the 90%. Go ahead. I would love for the government, I'm an advocate of a across-the-board flat tax, because I think we have too many people that get by with, paying almost no federal income tax because they have all these write-offs and all these businesses. I mean, we hear about that with Donald Trump forever, which is why he didn't want to share his tax filings with anyone. I think, I don't know what that number is. I don't know if that number, I don't think that number is 10%, but I think I could live with a 15% across the board flat tax where everybody paid 15%. What do you think? What do you think if you were in a position to determine federal policy on what taxation would look like, what would it look like for you? I mean, you think about the amount of money we put into just the amount of money we put into the Department of the IRS, Internal Revenue Service, how much it costs to man that place, run that place. We've got itemizations, we have deductions, we have schedules, we have self-employment tax, we have Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, If we just said, look, no refunds, no, it's going to be 15% across the board. Keep it moving, sir. We're going to make sure, ma'am, y'all good. You think that will work? What are your thoughts about that? I'd be curious to know what you think. What's your experience with taxes? I'm not going to tell you what software I use because I'm tired of giving people fair airplay. They don't pay advertising dollars on our show. So if I get them to pay advertising dollars on the show, I'm going to tell you what software I use to be able to file my taxes. And so, look, this is James Gailliard, and you are listening and watching the James Gailliard Show right here on Choice 92.1 FM. I'm with you every Monday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. I'm happy to take your calls at 252-937-7400 or 919-872-9210, or I'll be listening and reading, rather, whatever your message is. We're just catching up on what happened. When you come back, I want to talk about some nonprofit development, and I want to do some poll questions as we talk a little bit of politics. This is James Gailliard. I'll be right back.
Chapel Missionary Baptist Church with Reverend Dr. Harry L. White Jr. online at wattschapel.org and live this Sunday at 9:30 on Choice FM.
NC Black Alliance's 18th annual NC Black Summit, April 25th and 26th at the Raleigh Convention Center. Attendees can interact with Black elected officials, public policy advocates, and strategic partners, igniting progress, demanding equality, and setting the stage for the pivotal 2024 election. Get tickets at ncblacksummit.org.
Pop's Diner, 132 South Church Street, Rocky Mount. Juicy burger, hot, delicious wing, yummy spaghetti, and the first pizza to ever be served downtown Rocky Mount. Hot, delicious pizza and more at Pop's Diner. Pop's Diner for hot dogs. Pop's Diner for lunch. Open daily from 11 till 7 p.m. City workers get the Pop's hookup. Pop's Diner open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Wings, pizza, burgers, spaghetti, salads, and more. Hot, fresh, and fast at Pop's downtown Rocky Mount. Open 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
KURN News.
I'm Jamie Jackson. The ongoing battle against high inflation is continuing to have ripple effects across various industries, and the auto sector is no exception. According to new data from Edmunds, an automotive research and shopping platform, higher auto loan sales are keeping new and used vehicle sales in 2024 pretty low. The experts at Edmunds have also noted that the $20,000 new vehicle is nearly extinct. Their data shows that the average transaction price for a new vehicle reached more than $47,000 in February. That's right, more than $47,000. That's a significant increase from the average of a little more than $36,000 5 years ago, a 28% increase. For AURN News, I'm Jamie Jackson.
The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM.
Oh, shuggy now. Listen, you know what? I'm listening to what y'all are listening to. They messed around and got me all sidetracked. Sometimes, y'all, I can be so bipolar. Like, I can, not in a clinical sense, but just in a, like, I just get distracted so easily. You know, anybody who knows me and listens to me, like, gets around me in conversation, I feel bad for them because, I mean, literally mid-sentence, I'm on to the next thing. So now I'm all distracted because I'm listening. First of all, vehicle sales are low because of interest, because of loans being so high that people can't afford them. So maybe that means vehicle prices are going to go down. God knows, I hope so. But I thought what was interesting is the average new car price now is $47,000. Do you know they're now giving 7-year car loans? Can you imagine what your car is worth 7 years after you buy it? That's another show. So this is James Gailliard, and you are watching and listening to the James Gailliard Show. We've been talking about taxes. We've been talking a little bit about Donald Trump, and we've talked a little bit about O.J. Simpson. I want to encourage you to follow me on social media at JD Gailliard on all the platforms. Let me know that you're new. And go ahead and subscribe to my podcast, In Black and White. Just type in my name or type in Black and White, and we'll make sure that you get informed of all the things that we have going on. I'm gonna throw out some categories, and I want you, if you're in a position to type in, like if you're listening on social media or watching, and you're able to put a number in, okay? So, and so here's the question. I'm gonna give you some categories. And I want to know on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does that category mean to you? Like, how important is that subject to you? 1 is, it doesn't really matter a whole lot to me. 10 is, it is super, super important to me. Okay? So we're going to have a little fun with this for just a moment. So I want to jump out K-12 education. So type in K-12. And then in one of these days, I'm gonna get all sophisticated, and I'm gonna have an ability to have like it pop up, and I'm gonna figure out some cool stuff. But we're just new at this. Type in K-12, and if you're driving, you obviously can't do this. But on a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being I don't care about this at all, 10 is I really, really care about it. How would you classify K-12 education? What is the importance of K-12 education? While you are typing that in, 1 is I don't care much about K-12 education. 10 is I really, really care about K-12 education. And the reason I'm raising this is because we have, and I'm going to give you some other subjects as well, but I want to just toy around with K-12 education for just a moment. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is K-12 education? The reason I'm raising this is, first of all, I think one of the ways we fix it is, on a state perspective, is just increasing state taxes, because I think our taxes could be a little higher on a personal basis, personally, and I think some of that money could go towards K-12 education. You know, in 1994, there was a case filed. There was a case filed that was called Leandro. And it was actually Leandro 1. A lot of times when people talk about the Leandro filing of public education, they only refer to Leandro. But the truth of the matter is there's Leandro 1 and there's Leandro 2. The question is, on a K-12 basis, how important is public education? We have an 8, we have a 10, we have a 10, they're still coming in. So Cumberland, and I want you to pay attention to this for all my folk that are in the East with me. If you're like in Tarboro, Enfield, Scotland Neck, Rocky Mount, Wilson, Northampton County, Roanoke Rapids, the Leandro 1 case basically was a case that said that the state of North Carolina has a constitutional right to providing every child with a sound basic education. It was originally filed in 5 counties. It was filed in Cumberland, Halifax, Hoke, Robeson, and Vance counties. And basically, and we're seeing almost 10s across the board. And so it gets filed in 1994. Then in 1997, the Supreme Court actually ruled on it. And then in 2004, the state Supreme Court decided in what was called the Hoke County versus North Carolina, which was Leandro 2. So you had Cumberland, Halifax, Hoke, Robeson, and Vance in Leandro 1. Then you had just Hoke in Leandro 2. And it went deeper, because Leandro 1 was like, we have a constitutional right in North Carolina, and we do, to provide every child a sound basic education. But then in Leandro 2, it also ruled that the state was responsible for staffing every classroom with a competent teacher, hiring a competent principal for every school, and providing adequate resources to ensure an equitable learning environment. And I'm raising this, and I've talked about Leandro some in the past, but I want to just touch on it again, because the reason I'm raising this is because many of us are saying, because what I don't want to do, what I want to do is I want to improve our level of education on various issues so that we are not voting so emotionally, and so that we're not, because people get so emotional. Like, I say certain things about certain groups of people, and everybody gets all up in a wad about it. And all I'm doing is just helping educate people. So, sometimes people you love are wrong. Sometimes people that we want to believe have the answer don't. And so many of you are saying, like, you're giving like a 10. I think the lowest I saw was an 8, but most of you are saying, K-12 education is so unbelievable. All these 10s almost. It's crazy. And so the reason I raise this is, if you know that's an issue that's really important for you, then when you are beginning to vote for the General Assembly, for Secretary of Public Instruction, for congressional people, county commissioners, city council, even though city council doesn't have as much to do with public education, I want you thinking not from the lens of black or white or Democrat or Republican. I want you thinking from a policy lens. And I want you asking yourself, which individual and which political party is going to improve this area enough with their policy recommendations? That's what I want us to get into the habit of asking, okay? And so, all right, let me raise another one. Let me raise another. Now listen, y'all. This only works if you're honest. So I want you to, be honest, okay? So here's the next one. Y'all ready? Here's the next one, immigration. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is immigration issues to you? How important is that? So 10 is, it is so important to me, it's like more important than everything else, or as important. 1 is, I don't really care about it a whole lot. Now, let me just say, while we're talking about immigration, I know a lot of times we can think it doesn't really impact us. Let's be real honest here, okay? Let's be real honest. Some of our best contractors at our church and in some of my private endeavors are immigrants. There are people that are here from Venezuela, people that are here from Mexico, people that are here from other places. And so how important is this issue of immigration? Like, we wind up raising it so high on the national scene, but then when we start thinking about it locally, we can easily get caught up and pulled into things. Like, it's amazing to me that some of the people that harp the most about, now let me be really clear. I don't think just any old body needs to be pouncing on into the United States without the proper protocol and procedures. But there are people that are literally trying to come here for a better life, that are hardworking, that are honest, that, I'm going to tell you, man, I've used a couple of immigrant contractors that, they're here legally, they have W-9 forms, and they have Social Security numbers, and they have all of that. But they're amazing as contractors. They're respectable, their work quality is amazing. And a lot of times the very people that are harping about harsher immigration laws are the very people who benefit from the immigrants that do come into our country. So that bothers me. It really bothers me. I remember being in the General Assembly. For those of you that are just tuning in, I'm James Gailliard. This is the James Gailliard Show. I'm with you every Monday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. right here on Choice 92.1 FM, the People Station, and I'm delighted that you are all joining me today. When I was in the General Assembly, there was a law that got passed that was really an attack on a few Democratic sheriffs, and it was basically forcing them to interact with ICE. But these sheriffs have their standalone authority, independent of the General Assembly. And so if you choose that you're going to interact with immigration enforcement agencies, that's something that a community has to decide, whether or not you interact with federal agencies. And so there was like a push, a force to force certain Democratic sheriffs to interact with some of these immigration agencies. But what was so interesting to me was that when you think about, if we didn't have if we did not have, I mean, just real talk, y'all. And the question is, I haven't seen y'all respond on a immigration basis, on a 1 to 10 scale. How important is the issue of immigration for you? I think I just saw Ray on, man, it's your wedding anniversary, isn't it? Happy anniversary, brother. So now people are saying 6 immigration, 7 immigration, 5 immigration, 10 for humanity. And I get that, Natasha. And I'm pro a good, solid immigration system, but I think we need to stop acting like that there are people that come in as immigrants that are taking jobs from people, and the reason people can't have jobs is because, let me tell you something, if we didn't have any immigrants in this country, or we have very few, we would not have much produce in the produce section. When we start talking about who is working our farms, we start talking about many of the people building homes, many of the people that are doing concrete work and that are doing tile work and doing carpentry work. And so I just want us to not be hypocrites. I want us to really be able to embrace systems that were equitable for everyone. You know, what I jotted down 2 things that I think we need in every politician. I think we need people that are fiscally responsible. I mean, you can't be loose with the stewardship of the purse strings, right? We have to be responsible in terms of how we spend the money. And then we have to be socially sensible. Like, those are the 2 things that jumped out for me. If we could have more elected officials that are fiscally responsible and socially sensible. But I think so oftentimes we get to the far right or the far left, nobody's being responsible, nobody's being sensible, and we wind up with public policy that doesn't really benefit anyone to a large scale. So, you know, I do think we need firm immigration rules, but I think we need a robust system that enables people that want to come into our country to come into our country so they can become participating citizens as quickly as possible. What say you about this issue of immigration? They are escaping unsafe conditions in their countries. I totally agree. To witness the migrant students work twice as hard to fit in is amazing for me. You know, it's funny you should say that, Nikita, because they, I find myself struggling to communicate with them, right? But this is like the conviction that hits me. They still do a better job of speaking English than I do of speaking Spanish. So, like, they're still doing a better job of communicating the way I communicate than I am of communicating the way they communicate. And so, what did LaShawn say? He says, you wouldn't believe the amount of illegal activity that happens in Eastern North Carolina as it relates to immigration and regulations. The people hiring and forcing labor are voting against immigration expansion. It's a good word, man. The amount of illegal activity that happens in Eastern North Carolina as it relates to immigration and regulations. People are hiring and forcing labor are voting against immigration expansion. It's no question. I mean, and Ty, you're right. We need much better systems. I agree. I've seen some heartbreaking conditions. Let me tell you something. I have seen immigrants that work the farms in Eastern North Carolina. They get paid. So they get paid, and then they spend their money in a store or in an environment that's owned by the farming community that they farm for. So literally, the essentials they need, they wind up buying from the people that they got their check from, and literally not long after they're paid, that money has gone right back into the hands of some of the farmers or some of the farm owners. And then these are the people that vote for the harsher immigration laws, but they're the ones being most volatile, most inequitable to people in the farming community. And so it's really amazing to me, some of the things that we witness. And so, all right, y'all, let's go on with a poll question. Healthcare costs. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, and let's just say healthcare. Let's just say healthcare. 1 is healthcare is not that important to me. 10 is, and I'm going to do a whole show on immigration. I'm going to do a whole show on K-12 education. I'm going to have people like LaShawn come in the studio, join me. We're going to chop it up, talk about these things. But I want to just kind of get us talking about some of the issues that are going to be front and center over the next several months as we gear up toward the general election. And so I think if we lived in a border town, I would probably I agree with that. I totally agree that if we lived somewhere else, and that's part of what I'm trying to get. I'm not saying don't care about these issues. I'm saying that we can't get caught up in the emotion of the issue that in some ways we are detached from, or that we're not thinking through in a sensible way. And so if you are left to figure out neglect and trauma from society globally, crime will continue to blaze wildly. If youth are left to figure out neglect and trauma from society globally, crime, that's a great word. It's a great word. I totally agree. And LaShawn said that is profound. I totally agree with that, Natasha. I'm sorry I missed you, by the way, when you were worshiping with us. I think you're probably back in Florida, but appreciate you stopping by and gifting me. And I was talking to your brother about you, and I know the family's so proud of you and what you're doing. And so healthcare costs, or healthcare, 10 is like, I care about this like crazy. Now, I'm going to spend the rest of the show talking about healthcare, and then we'll pick up on some of this next week. So 1 is I don't care about it at all. 10 is I really care about it. Now, let me ask you this question. Do you believe employment status should be attached to healthcare? Because basically we live in a system right now where you get your healthcare coverage from your employer. But people that are not employed have to either rely on Medicare or Medicaid if they can even get on it. And in many situations they cannot, which means they don't have access to health care, which means they don't have access, it's harder for them to stay healthy, which means it's harder for them to work. And so I'm wondering, like many civilized nations, they have a universal public health model where you just, I thought about this today, not today, about 2 weeks ago maybe. I got some new glasses. Y'all checking out my glasses. And so people have given me a lot of compliments about my glasses, right? And I appreciate that. But I got to thinking about it, and I didn't spend nearly for these what I have in the past spent for glasses because I'm being cheaper these days. And not cheaper, more frugal. But I thought about it. This has happened twice for me in the last 3 years. I thought about how I needed money to be able to see. Like I thought about the people that either did not have the income because my glasses are not covered by my health benefit plan. Now, when I was with the state, they covered your eye exam and they covered your hardware or your contact lenses. My health plan did. Now that I'm back with our church plan, it covers my exam, but it doesn't cover my glasses, so I have to pay out of pocket for that. But I got to thinking about people that if I don't have health insurance, how do I go get an eye exam? And I know there are some, we've got our federally qualified health. Shout out to OIC, shout out to our federally qualified health center. I'm a huge fan of our FQHCs. But without our FQHCs, we have a whole population of people without access to health care. And so I think it's something fundamentally wrong that I need money to be healthy and I need money to be able to see. And it really convicted me. And I'm not one of those like social progressives. Let me be really clear. That may not allow me to be endeared by a bunch of y'all. I'm not a social progressive. Like I'm not a far left guy in any sense at all. I really believe in people being able to do their part, assuming that people can become acclimated to an equitable system where there's literally opportunity created. In many situations, we don't have those systems in our nation. So I'm not advocating just give everything away. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying our systems are broken. I was reading an article today on, I think the number was like 35%, and I was looking for the UNC system, and they weren't in the particular article that I was reading. So I was like, I need a little bit more time with this before I spend a bunch of time with it on air. But it was it was like over 30% of all healthcare systems that did not abide by some requirement from the courts to make their pricing available for either Medicaid or something like that. And I got to thinking, man, like, what other system do you know? Like, this is something I do agree with Dale Folwell about. Dale Folwell is state treasurer, and he ran unsuccessfully in the Republican primary for governor. And let me just be really honest, I'm not a big Dale Folwell fan, only because he's so brash. He's so like condescending and so kind of mean-spirited and nasty in his demeanor. And I just don't like that. Like, this is, I met him in the General Assembly. I worked with him in the General Assembly. But this is a guy that, like, he could have the best idea in the world, but because he just say it in such a nasty way, you just can't get down with him. It's just, he's that guy. But this is something that I really agree with him on. Like, our healthcare system should be, like, when I go to the emergency room, like, there should be, how do y'all feel about this? Should there be, like, should they give you a menu of services when you go to, when you go to the emergency room, so that if you need blood drawn, you know how much that is? If you need an x-ray, you know how much that is? If you need, I don't know, whatever it is, the fact that there are no prices, the fact that we don't know how much care, how like, you go to the doctor, then you get a bill at home if you have health coverage. It gives you this long list of all these services and how much money everything costs you. How we know that's what it costs? I'm just saying, how do we know that, my emergency room bill was really $3,910, of which that $3,000, I'm just throwing a number out, $3,910, of which my health insurance covered 80% of it, which means my balance is X. Like, how do we know that the person who's being billed that is female is not being billed at a higher rate than a male? How do we know that the black person is not being billed at a higher rate than the white person? How do we know? There's nothing posted. Like, we know nothing. We know about nothing. And it's like the craziest system. And let me tell you what's real crazy. What's real crazy is, on top of that, the United States has one of the worst outcomes of any civilized nation in the world. Like, nations that have advanced healthcare options, they have much better outcomes than the United States. So I'm like, and then we have, like, do you know in North Carolina, about 100 counties, we have entire counties that don't have access to certain types of specialists. Like, we have counties without a pediatrician. We have counties without a cardiac doctor, a cardiologist. We have counties without, like, certain specialties. We even have counties that don't have general practitioners. So depending on where you live, you think about it. If you live, like, in Northampton County or Warren County, and you need a cardiologist, that's going to be kind of hard to come by. So now you have an access problem. You have an affordability problem. You have an accountability problem. We have a really broken system, y'all. I think one of the things that we need to be talking more about is how we develop better healthcare systems, and we should be electing people that actually have ideas around public policy as it relates to education. He says the name's it Obamacare, so they could demonize it. That's exactly right. In reality, people just needed to be able to see a doctor with or without a full-time job. Look, I totally agree with you, LaShawn. You know what's funny? There's been studies done of somebody walking up to someone and saying, okay, I got 2 questions for you. How do you feel about the Affordable Care Act? And they're like, I think it's great. I think it's something we should have done in our country. Then it says, okay, great. What do you think about Obamacare? And the person was like, it's horrible. It's horrible. Well, sir, Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act, sir. So you're right. I remember when Barack Obama was president, he said something because they had termed it Obamacare at that point as a way, to your point, LaShawn, demonizing it and getting it overturned or even getting it not to approve. And I remember Barack saying, I'm Barack Obama, I'm Obama, and I do care. So he's basically saying, you know what, call it Obamacare because I'm Obama and I do care. And so I totally agree. I encourage people to recycle their. We're up on a break in just a couple minutes. I'm trying to catch up on everything you guys are sharing with me. But we're talking about healthcare today and the importance of it, and not just healthcare, but dental care. Our emotional health, our dental health, our physical health, all of it is really so important. And I think sometimes we always have lots of educators, and let me just shout y'all out and thank you for what you do. I think sometimes we don't recognize how difficult it is for a child to perform well when they're sick, where they're in the midst of fighting diabetes or childhood obesity, or they have some kind of emotional or mental health trauma that they're dealing with, or there's some type of adverse childhood experience that they're trying to grapple with. And so I like the thought of a front cost menu. Tuesday when I got admitted to the hospital, cost was one of the things that crossed my mind. Isn't that a shame? I mean, where we literally, I want to go to the doctor. I remember getting, what was it? I forget the test that I had to get. I was having a couple little heart palpitation issues, and I had to get a test. It'll come to me in a minute. And my out-of-pocket was over $3,000 for that same-day procedure. And I remember, and they wanted it before they did the procedure. And I thought to myself, how many people could potentially die of something because they just cannot afford to be diagnosed? Did you hear what I just said? What a tragedy to die because I wasn't diagnosed. And what a tragedy that I wasn't diagnosed because the system was not available or I couldn't afford the system that was. I'm James Gailliard. This is the James Gailliard Show, live every Monday from 5 to 6. We're talking healthcare, public policy, K-12 education, immigration, and all that good stuff. Donald Trump, O.J. Simpson. We're going to take our last break, and I'll be right back.
Show on Choice FM.
Pop's Diner, 132 South Church Street, Rocky Mount. Juicy burger, hot, delicious wing, yummy spaghetti, and the first pizza to ever be served downtown Rocky Mount. Hot, delicious pizza and more at Pop's Diner. Pop's Diner for hot dogs. Pop's Diner for lunch. Open daily from 11 till 7 p.m. City workers get the Pop's hookup. Pop's Diner, open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Wings, pizza, burgers, spaghetti, salads, and more. Hot, fresh, and fast at Pop's downtown Rocky Mount. Open 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
Can I get a weight reading on the cat in exam 3?
Zuri needs a new vet tech after their current one literally moved to a farm.
Detailed checkup is waiting.
But finding an ideal replacement takes some training.
This is like herding cats.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM.
Hey, family, we're back. I'm telling you, I keep talking the Chuck and the power players at Choice 92. We got to figure this thing out because the hour goes so fast. And I love y'all. I can imagine, I've been listening to a lot of Joe Madison. They're doing Joe Madison classics. He was the, quintessential voice of black radio, black urban radio. And so they're trying to figure out who's going to be the voice to replace him. And he would always talk about his love for his audience. And I kind of feel like this show a little bit about the way I do pastoring people. You do life with them. And as you do life with them more and more, you bless their babies. You attend events that are important to them. You funeralize the people that they love. You're there with them in counseling. You're there with them to pray for them. You're there to give them a shoulder to cry on. You're there to speak life to them. You're there to encourage them at moments of disappointment and frustration. And as you do life together, you just get closer and closer. You start meaning more and more to each other. And I think I'm a little, next week when we come on, I'll probably talk a little bit about what will soon be my 24 years of pastoring people in that context. And I'm starting already to feel that way about this show and about all of you. I love the fact that you jump on, and I know some of you are driving, and so you can't engage, and which is why we're going to create opportunities as we move forward for you to call in. I mean, we already created it, but we minimize it just because I want to get as much talk time in as possible in this hour. But I love your thoughts. I love what you're doing. I love that you want to make a difference, and I want that to be this show. I don't want this to be a show where we complain and murmur. I want this to be a show where we come up with solutions, where we grapple with the hard issues. I want this to be a show where we are talking about substantive things, that we're not talking about people for the sake of talking about people. We're talking about people because we care about what they do. We care about their decisions. And so thank y'all for the engagement. We talked a little bit about Donald Trump's Bible. We talked a little bit about his court case and making history as the first president to ever stand trial in our nation's history. We talked a little bit about O.J. Simpson on his passing from prostate cancer. And we started talking a little bit about substantive issues like healthcare and K-12 education and immigration. On the weeks to come, we're going to talk about the cost of living and how expensive things are. We're going to talk about the economy and jobs. We're going to talk about the state of our democracy. We're going to talk about housing affordability. We're going to talk about crime. We're going to talk about protecting abortion rights. We're going to talk about climate change. And we're going to talk about all the things that matter to you. So during the week, our staff is checking your comments. And so plug in and say, hey, can we talk about this on your show, James Gailliard? And I'm happy to try to engage you in all the things that matter. Thank you for being with me on this Monday, April 15th. I pray the Lord's choice and assorted blessings upon you and upon your family. And I can't wait to gather again with you next Monday at 5 p.m. right here on Choice 92 FM on the James Gailliard Show. I'm out of time, but I'm not out of talk. I'm out of clock, but I'm not out of content. So I'll see you back next Monday.
The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM.